Hi, and welcome to the Sticiouspodcast. I'm your host, Connor.
And I'm your co-host, Tash.
Welcome. We have an exciting episode for you today.
What are we going to be talking about today?
Imaginary friends.
Ew.
Yeah, after hearing about your luck godmother, or whatever it was.
My fairy godmother.
Or your mental illness. One or the other. It got me inspired and I went out and looked what exactly imaginary friends are.
Are you a believer, I guess? I don't know. I feel like lately the episodes we've been doing, you're not really able to ask that question.
I know, it's more based on like theory-based rather than could it be real?
Yeah.
Well, do you believe that imaginary friends could be real creatures?
No.
No, not at all?
No. Not at all.
You don't think there's an if out there? Did you have an if? That thing was your if?
It wasn't like an imaginary... I guess it was an imaginary friend. For anyone who's like wondering what we're talking about, basically, I used to see things as a child. The thing that I would see, it was basically like a fairy. And it would tell me, cheer me up, talk me through stuff. Basically, I guess it was an imaginary friend. I guess.
Yeah, it sounds more imaginary friend / luck
fairy. Luck fairy. Sure. Okay, so I guess in that sense, yeah, maybe. I don't believe that it was real. I think it was just mentally at that age. I just maybe needed someone or something. So my brain was just sort of like, yeah, here you go. Here's the thing. You know what I mean? I don't think it was like a real creature that found me and was like, let me hang around. Because if that was so, why would it just disappear at one point?
Yeah, that's true. Age? That's true.
Yeah. What about you?
No, I don't believe... I guess because I don't think I've ever had an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could say, yeah, it could be real. I don't remember. Well, maybe I did and I just don't remember because that's supposed to be a thing when you have an imaginary friend. You don't remember that you've had an imaginary friend.
Really?
Yeah, apparently you just kind of forget. Not everyone. I'm just going off of what they said in If. So there's like, oh yeah, you don't remember that you had an imaginary friend.
The scientific documentary that was If is what you're basing this on. It's not a scientific documentary for anyone who's watched it. It's literally
100% is a scientific documentary.
Fictional children's film.
John Krasinski is a scientist. So for those of you who don't know, imaginary friends can be other children, other mythical creatures, animals, toys that have come to life and are a companion to that child. In most cases, you don't need to worry about your child if they have a made-up friend. Don't go to the psychiatrist and say your child's crazy.
That's why I guess they don't really diagnose children, because most of the time, children are not mentally there.
Their minds are always active. They're always playing.
Overactive imaginations. So it's exclusive to children?
Well, yeah.
Does it give an age range?
It doesn't, no. Not when I looked.
Just because I'm thinking, like, at what age do you just stop? Is it like you're a child... Now you're a teen. That's it.
Well, there's some parts where I read where it was like people create these so that the kids are having like social interactions because they're at home. Maybe their parents are doing things. So it's like, I guess before they go to school, maybe pre-nursery or at nursery, somewhere there.
Yeah. Mine was like I was what, year 3, year 4, year 5? Mental illness. No, you say mental illness, but year 5 is still only like, what, 11? 10, 11, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't know. For me, it was different. I think when I was in year 4, I was possibly 8, 9. It's very different because I grew up in Spain. So my year 5 was it?
Yeah.
My year 5 would be I was 8 or 9. I think.
Yeah. Is it not the same?
I don't know, roughly, because then we do 6 years and then we go to high school, which is 4 years.
This is such a sidetrack, but like in Zim, we do grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 7 is primary school.
Yeah.
And then when you go to secondary school, you don't go, grade 8, whatever. You go Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4.
It's so weird how everyone does school different.
I know, it's so weird. Maybe I was too old to be doing such nonsenses.
Maybe that's why it wasn't an imaginary friend. Maybe it was a real creature, an invisible creature that befriends children, a ghost, an actual fairy.
I do want to talk about the ghost thing.
What ghost thing?
The theory. I don't know if you will cover this, but the theory that some of the imaginary friends that kids have are ghost children.
Yeah, yeah. I got a little bit of that.
Okay,
for you.
I'll let you get there.
We'll ease into it.
Yeah, we'll ease into it. Yeah.
As children reach their 2nd and 3rd year of life, their imaginations expand and they're able to play pretend. Many children know that these friends don't actually exist, but they experience real feelings of comfort thanks to the friendship. People estimate that between 5% and 65% of children have an imaginary friend at one point in life. That's a lot of people with imaginary friends.
So where you pause, like, yeah, it's kids.
Disgust.
There's many children.
There is a lot of children
Yeah,
out
there's
there.
a lot of
Too
children
many
out
children,
there.
some may say.
Some may say, where are these kids coming from and should they be stopped? Yeah, so I'm not really like surprised.
So either me or my brother would have had to have an imaginary friend.
Ooh,
One
we
in
should
three.
ask him. If we had another person here, well, it's me. I don't know why even.
And you
I don't know,
technically
I'm
did.
like, yeah, that's what I mean. If we had another person, it wouldn't make a difference. Right now, we're 1 and 2.
We bring one more person in, they wouldn't have had it.
Honestly, we're bringing the statistics up as we speak.
So why do they exist? Great question, Tash. Thanks for asking.
Why do they exist?
Wow, great question, Tash. Thanks for asking. So there's a number of hypotheses, or hypothesi, if you will. Hypotheses.
Hippopotamus? I don't know why I said hippopotamus.
I can see why you needed the imaginary friend. Yeah.
Rude.
So one of theory is the giftedness hypothesis. You're gonna like this one. I can tell. I can tell already what is gonna come up, and we'll get there. So this is the idea that children who have higher creativity or IQ may be more likely to have imaginary friends. This comes from research that shows a correlation between imaginary friends and more advanced storytelling skills. However, this remains a hypothesis, Tash.
I'm just saying.
I'm just reading what it says.
No,
This is verbatim what it said. It said it's a
Listen.
hypothesis, Tash.
I mean, I'm a little creative or whatever.
Or whatever.
Or whatever. That makes sense.
I concur. You know what? I am a super genius with an amazing brain and great looks. I have it all.
They never said great looks. Why are you thinking about great looks in children?
Because it wasn't end children, it was end you.
I actually do get that. Not because I'm like, oh my God, I'm super talented, but because
You're giving me that intelligence right there. That was coming across.
I had a very hyperactive imagination. I've told you about when I would go to dream and I would do all of this and create storylines and stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense because my imagination was probably constantly going. So it would make sense that my brain would be like, let's give you someone to talk to. Because all these gifts, they just can't be contained.
Well,
they can't be contained. It's too much talent for one person to have.
I like that one. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess it does help you get your storytelling up because, you're telling the stories to the imaginary being.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, did it talk back to you?
Yeah.
Oh,
We had
of course they do,
conversations.
And then there's the deficit hypothesis. Another partial reason for the existence of imaginary friends is the idea that these children do not have enough social interaction or require additional support as they present at the age of 5 or 6, which is a time when most children begin spending more of their time at school away from their parents. Some scholars who believe in this hypothesis credit creating imaginary friends to the stress of this change and the need for additional emotional support.
Damn, this is like therapy for me right now. The time in which this creature appeared was when I went off to boarding school.
Oh, so it's the additional support is the help.
As opposed to the talent? Why are you such a hater?
Well, no,
You're such a hater.
It still could be both. You could be creating this thing out of the need because your brain is smart enough to know that you need this.
Period.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I feel like your brain would have to be creative to create an imaginary friend because as a whole being, you're like projecting into the world.
You're right. I do love it being like a support because for me it was a support. So I feel like if it's something that the brain, almost like a coping mechanism that your brain can create for you, that's really nice and that's really lovely.
I mean, the brain is amazing.
The brain is amazing.
It knows what you need and it gives it to you.
Apart from those times of depression. That's the brain lacking.
Hey, brains can get depressed too.
Do better. Come on, brain. You can't have me all this time and then the time when I'm like, I need you the most, you're like, we're struggling too.
Maybe it's because we need to give it more vegetables.
Me saying, depression, you're like, maybe you need more vegetables. Who sent you?
This is why I didn't have an imaginary
sponsored
friend.
by parents everywhere? Because what are you even talking about, right? Yeah, little Timmy, you need your vegetables.
The Sticious podcast is brought to you by carrots. Eat your carrots, kids. You want that X-ray vision, that see in the dark? Carrots.
Eat carrots. Even though I ate loads of carrots growing up and I still need to wear glasses.
And then there's the egocentrism hypothesis.
I don't like the sound of that already. I feel like you were just making this up just to roast me. You're like, I'm going to build you up and I'm going to start knocking you down.
There was only one hypothesis. I created these other ones just to, humble you a little bit.
All right, what we saying?
So the egocentrism hypothesis argues that imaginary friends are a sign of a child's growing self-awareness. As people age, they learn that they are one, a person with thoughts and feelings, and two, that other people are capable of thinking, feeling, and perceiving them. This process can cause stress, but also curiosity and a need for exploration. Imaginary friends may be a way for children to begin learning about other people and navigating social interaction as they begin to understand it on a deeper level.
This is like so much deeper than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like imaginary friends.
Imaginary friends. Imaginary friends. Imaginary friends.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
Wow, you might have had a talent.
Oh, might have had an imaginary friend.
You might have had a talent, bro. Imagine. You might have had an imaginary friend. Check
I know.
you out.
I've always thought that about myself. I always thought I was the type of person that could have had an imaginary friend. Just based off of my brain.
The whole gaining consciousness thing. So real. When you're a kid and then you just kind of become aware, you can kind of do what you want. As much as your parents and your family and your guardians tell you what you can do, what you should do, you kind of realize that you don't have to listen to them. You're like,
wait, you have younger siblings. Did any of them have like imaginary friends? Because I feel like if, like, let's say, because I'm the youngest, if my younger sibling was like talking to like the wall or something, I'd feel like it was weird. I don't think I would trust a child. I don't know. Weirdly, children, I think TV has messed me up because children are scary. If a child is just talking to like nothing, so scary.
you shouldn't have kids. Respectfully, because kids are actually terrifying.
Children are terrifying.
Not because of like the way you think, but because I guess if you're not used to it, you just kind of would be a bit like, they do talk to themselves. I've walked in on my siblings full on having conversations with themselves. And then I'm like, sorry, what? Because I'm like, are they talking to me? And I feel bad because I'm like, I've been ignoring it this entire time. And they're like, no, I'm just talking to myself. And also more creepy things that they'll do is when you're sleeping, they will just stand there and stare at you. Like sometimes, especially if they come into your room, they'll just stand there and stare at you for a while. And if you happen to wake up at that time, you are going to absolutely soil yourself because you're going to be
like I would just involuntarily like,
it's never,
I'm going for the knockout.
See, you think so, but no, you're not. You just kind of, and then you remember there's a whole child that you live with. And you're like, oh. Can I help you? Mom.
I shut myself.
Let me tell you what used to annoy me so much. Because obviously people don't know, but there's like a good 10-year age gap between me and my youngest siblings. They're twins. When I was like 16, 17 or whatever, they were at the age where they're starting to get potty trained, right? So I was pretty much like, for a while in charge of like the potty training. Shout outs to my siblings. I don't think they understand how much sacrifice I've put in for them. So with the twins particularly, when they go to the toilet, they pee, they start to get a little bit more independent. But there's after they like poop particularly, you don't really trust them to like clean up,
Lovely.
So you kind of tell them to like let you know when they finished. Obviously they get to a point where they are independent with it, but when they're still really young, it's a bit messy. So they would yell when they were finished because you don't want to just be there with them staring at them. I mean, they need privacy. They are little humans. sometimes when you wouldn't hear them, because for example, you're doing other things and they've just gone off and they've done whatever, they would just come to you, because that's what kids do, and they would tell you, hey, you couldn't hear me, but I finished, let's go. And you'd be like, oh, God damn it, why did you move? My little brother decided to do this. He was like, I guess he had been calling out for a while. No one had heard him. I don't know how, because there were so many people in the house at that time. So he decided to come find me. But the thing is, I was emptying the bin at the time. So I was outside. This was when we were in Zimbabwe. So our bins are kept just like outside, still in the front garden or back garden, not like in England where you have to walk 50 miles just to empty the bin. Mm-hmm. So I was outside in the front garden and we had like a gate. So he's there behind me, just standing there, like in the doorway, like. Then I don't know why, but I kind of blanked him out. I think I was just like in my own little world. Again, I was a teenager. And then it clocked after a while because he was like, never mind. And I was like, never mind. That's weird. Why would he say my name and say never mind? And then I was like, what happened? And he's like, I did it. And I'm like, what did you do? And he's like, I went to the toilet and I finished my poo-poo. And I was like, wait, what? And then he was like, yep. And then he went to walk away and I was like, wait. So at this point I'm getting frustrated. Because he's not giving me the answer straight. So I'm like, I need you to tell me the whole story, my man. Again, kids this is a serious situation now. Because what did you finish? When? How are you here? Who helped you? Those are my questions. And he's being really vague. And he's just standing in the doorway. So I start yelling, did you poop? Did you poop? Like really loudly. At the gate, this guy who I had a crush on at the time was standing there and I didn't see him because it was pitch black. And I don't know how long he'd been standing there for, but he watched me yell at a kid.
Did you poop?
Did you poop? What did you do with the poop? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's so funny. And this little kid is just looking up at me, not telling me what he did with the poop. And I was getting so frustrated. I hear a voice in the darkness. And he's like, Natasha? And then I'm like, oh my God. I realized I was yelling at this kid about pooping. And do you want to know what the worst part is?
What?
He didn't even poop. He didn't even poop.
What did he do?
To this day, I don't know.
I don't know how we got here. We're talking about imaginary friends, and somehow we jumped to a kid standing in the doorway. You wipe and poop.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
I'm telling you about children and how annoying they are.
So, as you mentioned earlier, imaginary friends are spirits.
Yes.
Do you believe that more than imaginary friends?
I think when people see actual like other people, that's weird.
Yeah, if it's not like a space cowboy or like a giant blue thing. Because I always liked Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it was a great show. It was like on Cartoon Network. But it was like imaginary friends who are no longer allowed to stay with their owners, or their owners have like grown up and they have to go stay at this orphanage for imaginary friends.
Jesus Christ.
No, but it was nice. It was like seeing all the different creatures and everything.
So it was exactly like If, Imaginary Friend, the film.
Kind of, yeah, because there was kids that could come to adopt the imaginary friends and then take them home. And it follows Blue and this kid. Blue's not allowed to be at home because he's a bit disruptive.
Yeah.
No, it's cute seeing all the different types. But none of them were like
Human.
a regular human. Oh, this is Jeff.
Yeah, that's so creepy. It's like, oh, my imaginary friend is a little Victorian boy. I'm like, excuse me, that is not an imaginary friend. that is a ghost.
He died of the Black Plague, Mama.
Literally, I'm like, what do you mean, Mama? What are you guys going to be playing? Like, no.
Get a space cowboy, get a Jedi.
Right,
get
of
something.
all the things, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
my
no.
imaginary friend is a soldier who died in war. I'm like, you are 5 years old. Why is that your friend, the person you confide in, a war veteran? For what reason?
He was with the Southerners. He was a Confederate, Mama.
Imagine. Get out of here, demon child. Your child waking you up like, Mummy.
My Confederate soldier is hungry.
Confederate soldier. I'm like, well, go back to sleep. Starve.
If they were to say pet dragon, I'm not going to think they're crazy.
No.
If they say my little Victorian child friend, I'm going to think they're a little crazy.
Off to church we go. Immediately. I feel like it's always people that have moved somewhere new. I feel like the parents are always so casual about it when they talk about it as well. They're like, oh, remember when you were a child and you had Johnny as your best friend? And then it's like Johnny was imaginary. And then the kid never remembers as an adult. So they're like, what are you talking about? You should remember you were really close. We would set tables for them at dinner. And I'm like, you encouraged this?
Playing tea party with like a child. You set the table for the kid, for the imaginary friend.
For the Confederate soldier.
The Confederate soldier.
No. How about no? You're like, because you're also like, what is this person teaching my child? What are they telling them about the world? At least if it's a little Victorian boy.
He's teaching him how to cough. Mama.
You can't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry to all the Victorian children out there that are going to haunt me.
Speaking of Victorian children, remember chimney sweeps?
Yes, I was one. I got my lungs all black, I did, sir. Down in those mine shafts of those chimneys.
I hate you so much right now. Why are you doing this? Those poor children.
Yeah, no, children had it bad back in the day.
They really did, you know. And now they get people to wipe their little booties for them.
That they do. They
don't even know that they could be up in them chimneys. I'm joking. I'm kidding. Children need to just be children, you know. They need to be playing. They don't need to be worrying about all of that. In an ideal world, that would be my hope for all children, to have their booties wiped and to just,
You gotta stop talking about booties.
to just
You gotta
go.
stop talking about children.
And I'm
children's
telling you
booties.
about my dream for all the children to be out there just having fun, playing, you know, with other children, real ones, no Victorian children, and be like loved and supported. And you're here like, stop talking about the children.
Moving on. So imaginary friends are spirits. So some paranormal experts accept that children are generally more capable of perceiving spirits.
I think so.
So the purity of the young mind allows them to trust their supersensory ability without question. In many instances, imaginary friends are actually spirits who pursue a child's friendship for a host of different reasons. Some are the spirits of dead people who enjoyed children's company, and some are just attached.
To the child and not to a grown person.
Apparently. I guess because if you can actually speak to someone rather than just getting dragged around, you talk to the child and the child talks back.
I guess so.
Someone to communicate with.
Children are less likely to be like,
It's a Confederate soldier. I've also wondered if like the imaginary friend could have been them in a past life, if it's like a human looking person.
What do you think?
Possibly, because again, I was doing some research on reincarnation and a lot of children remember their past lives.
Yeah.
So what if it's like a form of projecting their past self into another person and they're playing with what was essentially their past selves?
Maybe like remnants coming through. But then why would they refer to the person as a whole other person rather than like, oh, that's me?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, because from stories I've heard of kids who remember their reincarnated selves, right?
Yeah.
They're always like, that's where I lived. Oh, this is
they
what
always
I
say
did.
me,
So it's
yeah.
like me. Yeah, whereas with imaginary friends, it's always very clear that this is not me, this is another person.
Well, maybe it's because they didn't know it was them. So they just have this like whole life of this person stuck in their head and they don't know what it is that they project out. Just a theory.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite an interesting theory, to be fair. That's quite cool.
Yeah, so imaginary friends might be spirits who acquaint themselves with a child for reasons that range from wholesome, maleficent. Like mortal predators, spirits with unkind agendas are more than happy to invest time and energy into earning the child's trust. South American cultures, children see duendes, which are elves that show up, cause mischief, but are invisible to adults. Native Americans believe children interact with invisible beings, communicate with their ancestors' spirits.
Wait, the duendes, is that where the whole elf on a shelf thing comes from? I've never understood that. I don't never know what's going on.
No.
I just saw loads of videos of children being scared of a little elf and like being annoyed.
But,
it's
like,
not
damn.
funny. I've got school tomorrow.
Indian parents believe their children are playing with spirits or people from their child's past lives. Oh, see, India.
Shout outs to
Indian
India.
In these examples, a child interacts with something the adults cannot see. However, cultural variations makes defining and identifying these instances challenging and can impact the report prevalence of imaginary friends.
For any of like our Indian listeners listening, because apparently we have a few, how do you know that the spirits that your child is playing with are friendly? Is it just an assumption that because the child has like let them in, they're going to be friendly to the child? Or has there been instances where they're not so friendly and then there's measures already in place for that? That's just a question I'm throwing out there. Feel free to answer. Feel free to not. It's fine.
Yeah, like how would you get rid of the imaginary friend if it's not a friendly imaginary friend? I guess in that instance, I guess it would be just a spirit, so salt or whatever.
But that also points a good question. Like, I wonder if there are kids out there that have imaginary friends that are just nasty and the parents don't like the imaginary friend. Like, how would you deal with that? You know what I mean?
Because I know that people like tell the imaginary friends off as well. When like the child misbehaves and he goes, oh, Jeffrey told me to do this. And then he's like, well, Jeffrey's a bad influence. He needs a timeout or something. Yeah. People also believe that imaginary friends could be spirit guides. Children are able to see them because of how young they are and their access. And then they never actually leave us. They still follow us, but we just can no longer perceive them.
That's so sad. I feel like a lot of adults could do with that support, like what you said in the beginning as well, of like them coming at a time when the child needs a little bit extra support. That would be quite nice.
Yeah, I feel like that's what If was trying to go for, but it didn't work.
No, it just ended up kind of being a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't any real like build up of anything. Things were happening. But yeah, I like the idea that everyone still needs their imaginary friend. You still need that like helping hand sort of thing.
Yeah. I feel like where If kind of went weird was the fact that the kid was such a little grown-up kid for no reason.
She had experienced trauma.
I know, but like the kid was the one that needed the imaginary friend the most. But instead of kind of focusing on that, they kind of went in the direction of like the kid helping adults. And I'm like, this kid is going through so much and needs someone to talk to. I know the dad was like trying, but he never really talked to the kid either. It would just be a lot of like jokes and stuff.
Yeah, and then she tried to get like imaginary friends for like that kid and it didn't work. And then she was like, well, never mind then.
Never mind. I thought that kid was going to be her imaginary friend.
I kind of want to watch the horror version. I think it's just called Imaginary. I have no idea what it's about. I've not seen the trailer.
Yeah.
But a lot of things have been coming out about imaginary friends. Like Zachary Levi was in a film about like imagination where he has like a pen that can draw things and they come to life. Apparently it was terrible. If wasn't great. And then there's the Imaginary. All these three things came out like this year around the same time. There must have been, I swear, there's like an algorithm that like compiles exactly what people want.
Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood. I mean, literally, White House Down, a movie about terrorists taking over the White House, and Olympus Has Fallen, another movie about terrorists taking over the White House, came out the exact same year within a couple of weeks of each other, and neither of them knew the other film was being made.
That's sus. I feel like they must have known and they just kind of were like, oh, no, we didn't know, because none of them want to be like,
We're monitoring the other companies. We have spies inside.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God, what a weird coincidence.
Oh, so another thing the imaginary friends could be is a tulpa. So a being or object that is created in the imagination by visualization techniques, such as in Tibetan mysticism. So a thing like a tulpa is Slenderman. Slenderman is technically a tulpa because someone put it out onto the internet and people started believing in it and then kids murdered for it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, kids. There was some kids that took another kid out into the woods, stabbed the kid, and said that Slenderman told them to do it.
What on earth is going on?
That's a bad imaginary friend.
Yeah. maybe it was some person on the internet pretending to be Slenderman who was like, hey.
Stuff like this that makes me like scared of children. Again,
Yeah, but like most children, let's be honest, are not that kind of easily influenced, because most kids, especially nowadays with access to the internet, are exposed to like the weirdest things.
Yeah.
And they're not going around just murdering for the sake of murdering because they know that's not right. That's not right thing to do. So if a child is going out and actually committing these things, then there's something seriously wrong with the child. There was this documentary where the investigator or whatever who specializes in like murder cases and murderers was kind of saying how it's so rare for a child of a certain age, I think it was probably like under 14 or whatever, to even have the thought of like killing someone, let alone to go out and do it. Because no matter what you see and what you watch, like on TV, that you know to a certain extent that's just fiction. Like as a kid, you know that's not real, and it's like all fake.
Yeah, I guess they can't fully comprehend like the subject as well.
Yeah,
the concept
exactly.
of it.
So the most of them don't go out and do things like that. So if they do things like that, it's like, whoa,
Whoop.
what's going on?
Tulpas aren't the same as imaginary friends or hallucinations. Children tend to summon their imaginary friends and typically control them, while tulpas have their own personality. Some believe tulpas think on their own, they experience emotions, and have memories. Tulpas generate personalities, desires, and curiosities all their own, quite separate from their hosts. French explorer and Buddhist Alexandra David Neal wrote that tulpas will eventually leave the host's body, like a child leaves the womb. She herself claimed to have made a tulpa and grew more and more sinister until it eventually had to be destroyed.
How did she destroy it?
That's a good question. Because how do you destroy a thought?
Yeah,
I guess because it became a physical being. Maybe she thought.
maybe. Yeah.
Shit.
But then, like, doesn't it get to a point where it just keeps appearing because you haven't gotten rid of the thought? You just got rid of the physical thing. And if people keep thinking about it and believing in it, it's going to keep coming back.
But if it's just you, then maybe you can stop it. You can destroy it. Possibly. Although it's kind of like Inception. Maybe it's like constantly living at the back of your mind,
Yeah.
waiting to come out.
Lingering.
Chin, chin. So tulpamancers provide guides and support for other tulpamancers. These communities gained popularity when fans of the adult animated series My Little Pony created forms for the tulpas of the characters in the show. Fans attempted to use meditation and lucid dreaming techniques to create imaginary friends. Yeah, so apparently the My Little Pony community is very big on trying to create tulpas. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? I swear, the more I learn about the My Little Pony community, the crazier it gets.
Yeah, I kind of want to go to one of their conventions and see what's going on there.
Burning it up.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but just
Yeah,
to
you
find
would.
out what's going on.
Hit it, Bernie.
I'm sure they'll send you an invitation after that. Your family invited now.
I don't know if this is towards the My Little Pony people, but this is just about tulpas in general. Some practitioners have sexual and romantic interactions with their tulpas, but the practice is controversial and taboo. It's like that woman that married the ghost.
Why do human beings insist on why do they insist? That's all I'm going to say. Why do they insist?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Why? Why can't we live well enough alone and just mind our businesses? It's always got to be taken one step too far
really
every
does.
time.
It's like when we created VR and everyone was like, damn, VR is so cool.
The moment VR was even introduced in films, I knew where this was headed. Well, that's not true. I was too young to know.
Well, have you
But
heard
when
about...
I was an adult, I knew.
Did you hear about the porn convention in Tokyo that was VR based? Yeah.
You could use VR to travel the whole world. You could use VR to resurrect like empires, colonies, ancient civilizations, things like that that we will never be able to physically go to, You could use VR to recreate what it would be like to live on a different planet, be out in space, be at the space station.
And yet the first thing Mark Zuckerberg did was give himself boobs.
Yep. And it's like, why? Could you imagine the possibilities are endless? Do you know what I mean? As much as of a fever dream as Spike and 3D was, we could have that. But instead, here we are.
I'm the guy. Who are you? I'm the guy.
I'm pro experiencing life.
I remember someone being like, oh, now that VR exists, I can go skydiving in VR and it'll be exactly the same.
Oh my! I remember this argument because we were like,
it's going to be exactly the same.
It's not going to be exactly the same. Fair enough. If you don't want to take the risk of actually going real life skydiving, you're scared of heights, fine. Like, and if you're unable to for whatever reason, it's fine. But
I don't think it's going to be the same.
Yeah, his argument was that you can now do anything in VR, and that means you don't have to do anything in real life. And he was like, you can go on holiday in VR, and then you don't have to go on holiday in real life. And I'm like,
oh no, I didn't hear him say that.
Yeah, that was what he said. Because he was all like, VR is basically going to be like real life. And I'm like, listen, if VR is a cheaper alternative for people to be able to like have these experiences, by all means, let's do it. I'm pro it. But at the end of the day, I do not want to be wearing a giant suit, because you're going to have to be wearing some kind of suit, like in upload. You're going to have to be wearing that.
Of the suit. Like, especially in Ready Player One, where it's like, oh, they want to feel the pain.
I mean, but the thing is, if you're going to be doing experiences in a VR situation, you're going to have to be wearing something to feel it. Otherwise, you're just seeing it. You're not actually feeling it. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're doing something like skydiving, you're just seeing yourself fall. And you're like, cool, yay.
Yeah, but you wouldn't get the weightlessness either. Like the fact that you're like, I don't know, flying almost.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Or falling in
That's
style.
why I'm like, life experiences, I'm here for it.
So, the process of creating a tulpa is considered to be a complex and time-consuming endeavor that requires a high level of focus and intention. The process is believed to involve the use of meditation and visualization practices. Using these practices in combination, practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism believe that they can create a tulpa that is able to manifest in the physical world and interact with its surroundings. So how do you create a tulpa, you ask? It involves mantra repetition, visualization exercises, physical exercise, and rituals and ceremonies. Would you ever make a tulpa? No? What if you needed help moving? You know, just create a tulpa.
That's very slave. It's giving slave.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
and
fair.
I feel like they would definitely kill me straight afterwards, and I don't want that. Yeah, it just feels like no matter what, it's not going to end well.
Yeah. I feel like they would it's like a spirit that would just eventually, it just turn evil.
No matter what, I feel like if you're summoning something for the sake of doing your own like selfish things, it's never going to be happy because you don't know where you're summoning it from. Maybe if you're yanking it from like being tortured in hell, it might be like, oh my God, thanks. But what if you just yanked a spirit straight from like, I don't know, paradise? Would you?
No, I feel like it would definitely turn evil.
Yeah.
It's just too risky. Too risky. Why would I? Why would I?
Why would you?
So another thing that the imaginary friends could be is what, if you remember the Supernatural Imaginary Friends episode?
What, the one with the unicorn and the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's called a Zana, which is a powerful and benevolent fairy found in Albanian folktales, who have similarities to the fairy tale concept of a fairy godmother, as well as the Christian lore of guardian angels. Envisioned as a beautiful forest spirit, they would aid people who became lost or injured, especially children, and could either act directly or indirectly to do so. But they were believed to be powerful enough that in some stories, they helped to bring life to fetuses in utero, to bestow upon them great gifts such as dancing, beauty, and luck. This was likely another reason they were especially protective of young and innocent children.
I guess that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
It's a little protector.
They vary in size and appearance and can transform to blend into their surroundings for protection and cover. They can appear openly in the woods and coax travelers to follow them in order to help them find their way. They can also hide in the woods and quietly guide those who need help through signs and breadcrumbs through the forest. Despite their good nature, like all Fae, it was expected to treat them with respect, or they could inflict harm or curses upon evil or disrespectful people. Seems like there's like a theme where it's like, don't get on like the imaginary friend's bad side, because he would take you down.
Well, they're protectors, so they have to have a side
to have
that's
an edge,
like or else
you can't just be like, please don't hurt my child, please don't hurt the child.
That's true. You have to be like, don't hurt the child.
So how do you feel on Xana as imaginary friends? Plausible? Fake news? How are you feeling?
Hope they would exist because that's kind of cute, but I don't know, because if that was the case, children would not get abused.
Yeah, but maybe there's not enough for them to go to everyone.
That would be harsh.
Well, it's from Albanian.
You don't get one.
It's like Albanian folklore.
So only Albanian kids must be.
Kids.
Damn.
Blame your heritage.
I'm going to start using that when people annoy me. It's not my fault. Blame your heritage.
And then there was the duendes, used as an umbrella term to refer to foreign terms such as goblins, sprite, yokai, and elves. The Spanish term originated as a contraction of the phrase owner of the house, or duende de la casa, originally considered a mischievous spirit that inhabited the house. In the Hispanic folklore of Mexico and the American Southwest, goblins are creatures similar to gnomes that live inside the walls of houses, especially in the bedrooms of small children. They attempt to cut the nails of scruffy children, sometimes mistakenly leading to the complete removal of the fingers. Yeah.
Maybe you can't just wake up and say, I'm a nail technician, babe. Like, maybe don't do it.
You gotta train, you gotta practice,
maybe,
get that degree.
Maybe don't do it. Like, what? That's crazy.
Although, imagine how this story came about. It was like, something was trying to cut my children's nails and it accidentally cut their finger off. It wasn't me. It must have been something hiding in the walls.
A gnome, perhaps? Although cutting like babies' fingernails is so scary. They're so delicate and little, and you're just like...
Yeah, I don't think I could do other people's. Again, yeah, you'd need practice, or otherwise you're taking off that finger.
You need practice. Like, shout outs to nail technicians.
In this, they are believed to be mischievous little pricks that love to mess around with people, like hiding your stuff, making you trip over, but you can appease them by leaving some candy. If they take a liking to you, they might help you out.
Do they sing?
It doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't specify if they sing.
Most renditions I've seen of goblins in media, they just sing for no reason. Down in the depths of Goblin Town. And then there were the Doctor Who ones, the ones with the heels.
Doctor Who. What happened this season?
Goblins was so sassy. For what? I will never understand.
For children.
Like, they're just like, about to go do some mischief.
About to eat a child. That's what they were doing.
Oh
they stole the
they
child
wanted
to eat the child.
Baby. I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, the little baby eaters. And they were so excited. Damn.
I have a little story for you about imaginary friends. So, when I was a small child, I remember having a friend named Molly. One weekend, I went to visit my great-grandmother in her home. She had so many photo albums that I loved to look through. After flipping through some of the pages, I stopped at a picture of a girl that looked exactly like Molly. I was stunned and felt my face going white. I asked my grandmother who the girl in the picture was. Oh, that's Molly Shannon, my mother. So my imaginary friend was the ghost of my great-great-grandmother. I was skeptical because she passed away when I was around 4 or 5 years old. Molly stayed with me over the years, and some of my friends and family have seen or heard her by now, so I accept the fact that I wasn't crazy and that I had a spirit attachment. She wasn't hurting anyone, so I didn't mind. When I was 19, I had my first child. She changed my world for the better. I was taking a nap on the couch because being a new mom was hard, and I heard a whisper in my ear, "Get the baby." And I have never woken up so fast. Confused and startled, I looked around the room, and then I looked towards the stairs. Molly darted up them, Following her, I ran into the room and saw that my daughter was up against the crib bumper and suffocating. I made an appointment with a psychic, and I swear she told me that Molly was my great-great-grandmother, and I didn't tell her a thing. She had no prior knowledge.
Why was the baby suffocating?
It was putting, do you know, like when babies like pull themselves up onto the crib? It had its neck over the bar. It was like...
Oh my God, I didn't get that. I was like, I just thought it was against, like back against, and then just choking. And I was like, Molly's choking your child?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Spirit.
But like, you don't believe in this. So do you believe now with that? I mean, come on.
I don't know, maybe it's more intuition.
No, girl.
I don't know.
How
like,
are you going to
I would-
intuition your great grandma?
I would believe more in the fact that the mom and the child had a psychic connection, and that's why she knew the child was in danger, rather than her great-great-grandmother's spirit had been attached to her for a long time.
But like, how do you explain having an imaginary friend and then finding out that imaginary friend looks exactly the same as her great-grandmother, and then other family members have also seen that same great-grandmother?
I'd believe that part, like the first half. But the fact that it stays with her until she's like an adult as well, that's the part I don't believe.
It's a spirit.
Yeah, but I feel like its spirit only has so much energy and eventually it fades.
Maybe it's like the Zana, because maybe it fades, but then because she got pregnant and had a child, it came back just to watch over the child during that period to make sure the child's okay.
But then why would it be saying that it's her great-great-grandmother and not a Zana? That's suspicious.
Don't they come in different shapes and sizes?
Yeah. But then why are you lying?
What do you mean, why are you lying?
Why are you like, oh, I'm your great-great-grandma?
Because maybe it is a great-grandma. Maybe the great-grandma got reincarnated as a Zana.
I don't know. I don't know. For me, I feel like it would be more of a psychic connection between her and the child.
You're so annoying.
I don't know. I would like to believe in spirits and attachment, but I don't believe they would stay with one person forever.
Why not? Why do you not believe that?
Because of energy and stuff like this. I feel like the energy would be expended and
Into what though?
just out into the universe. You didn't like.
But what if it doesn't want to be?
I don't know. That's how I perceive or think it would be.
Thinking of it from a scientific point of view, right? Something has to happen in order for that energy to then turn into something else. Mm-hmm. And what if that thing has not happened yet?
I do get what you mean. It'd have to be in its constant state, so it wouldn't have to change.
Yeah, nothing happened for it to be like, okay, moving on to the next stage.
That brings the question, why doesn't everyone do this? Why doesn't every spirit decide to stay or attach to someone?
Maybe it's a specific burial thing that you have to do, and they didn't do it.
And that's everything I have on imaginary friends. I have a little something else where it was like, oh, everything from literature and TV that has been created based off of imaginary friends. So Barney the dinosaur was based off an imaginary friend. Blue from Foster's Home of Imaginary Friends. Winnie the Pooh was created from imaginary friends.
I loved Winnie the Pooh growing up.
What are you thinking now about imaginary friends? Are you on the fact more that they're just figments of imagination that kids create? Are they spirits, Zana?
I think there's like a combination. I feel like a lot of them probably, the ones that don't look like people are just, I feel like kids just coping. The ones that are like human-like, I don't know, the verdict is still out.
Yeah, I think the human ones are sus.
Very sus. Like,
either that or get a better imagination, kid.
of all the things that you think of in your head and you're like a human.
Yeah, because I hear kids come out with like more of the craziest stuff. So I just don't see them being like, oh, it was just a regular human. Why not a human who is always wearing roller skates?
A human who is an astronaut.
Not a Victorian child. I mean, not that I met a child with an imaginary friend that wasn't a Victorian child, but it just seems very childlike as well.
It does seem childlike to be that specific.
It feels too right.
Feels like the thing a child would say.
Watch me ask my parents and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember your little Victorian child friend, Connor. No, Mom. No, you don't.
So funny. I think you should definitely ask, because that would be hilarious. After talking all of this crap about, ooh, what kind of a child is a little Victorian? They're going to have the most Victorian child, like called Charlie or something. little Charles. Percival.
But yeah, I'm on the fact that like imaginary friends, some of them are just imaginary. And I'm open to the possibility that they may be spirits or an invisible creature that's just like nice and fun and just like to watch over kids, like a guardian angel. Maybe it is like a guardian angel that puts on like a suit to make it seem more cheerful and more happy and more friendly to kids.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sticious Podcast. If you like this one, head back, have a listen to our other ones. We talk about vampires, werewolves, the end of the world. We talk about it all. Myths, theories, we got you.
And if you would like us to talk about anything in particular, don't forget that you can always let us know. And you can follow us on our social medias for any updates or anything like that. We are at sticious_podcast or at sticiouspodcast on most things. And we will see you soon.